be honest, teaching air resistance is a nightmare. You drop two objects, and the heavier one always falls first. Every kid says, see, told you, you're there trying to explain air resistance and gravity. And the kids are just thinking you're making excuses for the lighter object. The truth is, they're not wrong. They're just missing a piece. Gravity is trying to pull everything down. That's the simple part. But the air is getting in the way. The heavier object seems to fall faster because the air can't slow it down as much. But that doesn't mean heavier objects fall faster. That would be crazy. But then how can both be true? Makes no sense until you see it. You're about to crush one of science's oldest misconceptions, and your class will never forget it. It feels obvious, isn't it? The heavier one always just seems to fall faster, but the textbooks say no. So how do you go about explaining it? So gravity tries to speed everything up the same each second. That's the easy part. We know that. Gravity has no biases. And as we know, when things are falling, air is trying to push everything back. Big flat shapes give air loads to grab onto. Small ones, not so much. That part we know. That part is kind of intuitive. We know air resistance is something to stop big objects. But here's where it gets tricky. What if they're the same shape? Why does a heavier one fall faster? The theory kind of goes down the pan. Imagine we have two shopping trolleys, one filled with loads of food and one basically empty. We push them both down the aisles at the same speed. Which one is going to be easier to stop? The empty one, right? You can stop that pretty easily, but the heavier one, that's got a lot more oomph behind it. It's going to take a little bit of time to try and slow that down. Air resistance works in exactly the same way. We wouldn't say the heavier one is faster because it's heavier. No, that was absurd. That wouldn't make sense. What we would say is the heavier one was harder to slow down. Let me repeat that. The heavier one was harder to slow down. And that's exactly what's happening when two objects fall. The heavier one is just harder to slow down. And that's why heavier objects appear to be falling faster. It's just that they're not slowing down as much. So now with a shopping trolley analogy, you get it. So how do you explain this to your class without sounding like a physics textbook? Easy. You make them argue first, then you show them the proof. Start with a challenge. Ask the children which ones fall first, the heavy glue or this. Maybe not drop the glue, will cause a bit of a mess. And the noise is the learning. Allow them to fight it out. The heavier one, no, they both follow the gravity. They will be shouting out terms. Let them fight it out. Then you take a flat piece of paper and a scrunched up ball and say, right, these two are exactly the same weight. Which one will fall fastest? Now, the kids will instinctively know this one because of something to do with air. They might not know the term air resistance just yet, but you can demonstrate this. You drop them together, the ball hits first and you ask them, okay, same weight, same paper, different shape. Why did the ball fall first? Some will say the shape, some even might mention air resistance. And then it's your moment to explain air resistance. And you can hold the paper up again and say, can you see how much area the air has to grab? And then you scrunch it up. Now, how much area does the air have to grab this? Same weight, but completely different shape. You can explain air resistance with a lot more depth, such as putting your hand outside a car window or even inside the swimming pool. But then we move on to the next test. So for the next part, what we want to do is drop two items of the same size and shape. You can use two paper balls, fill one with some pennies or some coins. Or the way I've done it is I've got two beakers, one filled with some lentils. You can use sand, flour, sugar, rice, whatever you want. Try this out before to make sure it's heavy enough to make a difference. And you can hold them up and say, okay guys, same shape, different weight, which one wins now? Now they're really confused, and that's perfect. And you can take them on their shopping trolley analogy, and they know exactly what it's like to have a heavy trolley. And you can explain to them you can stop the empty one. A heavy one is a lot more harder. It keeps rolling, and it takes a lot of effort to slow it down. And you can explain to them we would never say the heavier one is faster because it's heavier. Just doesn't make sense. What we would say is because it was so heavy, it was really difficult to slow down. The lighter one gets slowed down more easily, the heavier one doesn't get slowed down as much. You can really bring this one home. And the way to solidify this is by taking it to the moon. And here you ask, on the moon, there is absolutely no air. So which one will fall first? Allow them really to think. A few of them will put two and two together. Heavier one and the lighter one will fall at the same rate because there is nothing there to slow them down. And there are so many ways you can build on this. But what I like doing is by building a parachute. I tell the kids, yeah, it was recently Halloween, so this is what I've got. And we can literally tell the children we want to slow this down as much as possible when we drop it from a height. And then tell them to build a parachute as big as possible. And you can really reinforce air resistance by asking them, how big do you want your parachute to be? Let them design, test, and compete their parachute. And if your class really get it, you can ask them, where don't we want air resistance? The typical answer, of course, cars, planes, rockets, because air resistance slows us down and we need to use that extra energy to overcome it. And a really good way to explain this is ask them how it feels when they're running really, really fast. That's when you know they've moved from curiosity to understanding. And then naturally it's time to wrap up. Just look around your class. They've argued, you've tested, they've just seen it for themselves. And then you ask the question, guys, what have we learned today? And there's gonna be no more hope here. Kids will understand it. Gravity speeds everything up at the same rate. They might have forgotten about the term gravity because it was such a long time ago. Reintroduce this. Air resistance slows everything down. Heavier objects don't feel air resistance as much because we've got so much oomph behind it. I mean, explain the shopping trolleys. It's such a visual representation. Kids love them as well. And they know what it feels like to slow down a really, really heavy one. Honestly, you could run this workshop tomorrow with some paper cups, some colored card, pencils, just stuff you can find in your classroom. It's super easy. Good luck with your workshop explaining air resistance to children. You've got this. Now, if you'd like a follow-up video explaining the maths behind this, let me know in the comments. You don't really need it for Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2, but it's a great follow-up and really explains why it works the way it does. Good luck for your workshop, and I'll see you in the next one.